Ladies and gentlemen, it is draft day. How are you all doing? Oh my goodness, I cannot believe it's here. Of course, the Broncos, we do not pick in round one just due to the Russell Wilson trade, obviously, and of course, trading for Sean Payton. We do not pick tonight, but we have back-to-back picks in the third round with pick 67 and 68. Now, of course, we'll pick in the first round next year, but that's neither here nor there. In this video, we're going to be going over the players that the Broncos could select at 67 and 68, and players that tonight during the NFL draft, whether you're watching the live stream with me, whether you're just watching on your own, players that could potentially fall into day two. Now, if they fall into day two, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to slip. They could go very early in the second round and not even make it to us. So, just these are players that I personally want, that I will be watching for to see if they'll fall. But before we get into that, as always, I do want to remind you that Jesus is king. I pray that you give your life to him. He's got a plan and a purpose for you. And I truly hope that you accept Jesus with your whole heart. Believe that he died on the cross for your sins. And if you truly believe that with your whole heart, then you'll go to heaven. It's that simple. It's that easy. It's not by our works. It's by grace. It's through the grace of God, by our faith in Jesus, that he took our place on the cross and died for our sins so we can go to heaven. A lot of people won't like that I'm sharing that, but I feel it's important to share that. Even though I have a small platform, it's a platform nonetheless. So I'm going to share the message of the gospel, and I don't care what people think of me. With that being said, let's jump into this. So before we get into anything, I just want to ask you to smash that subscribe button. I'm trying to get 500 subscribers. Was trying to reach 500 subscribers by today, draft day. Unfortunately, it looks like we're not going to hit that, which is fine, honestly. I haven't been posting as frequently as I'd like to, so it is definitely understandable. But if you could subscribe and leave a like, that would mean the absolute world to me. Now, here is how it's going to work. Because we have back-to-back picks at 67 and 68, if a player falls to us at 67, they'll still be there at 68 if we haven't taken them already. So here are the 5 categories. It's going to be the won't be there, which means it's a player that I really, really want, but they're not going to be there because they're too good of a prospect. Probably won't be there means they're a really good prospect. I don't think they're going to be there, but there could be a slim, small chance that they will be there, but probably won't be there. Then there's could be there, which means, I think it's a 50-50 shot that maybe a team is a little bit higher on that prospect and they take him a little bit earlier, or maybe some teams are lower on the prospect, so he slips down the board due to an injury or something and will be available for the Broncos. Will be there is someone who I am confident will be at that spot, and the Broncos could select if they want. And we have the most likely pick on who I think the most likely pick will be for the Denver Broncos. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this. Starting off with the won't be there, it's going to be Brian Branch. Brian Branch is by far and away my favorite prospect in this draft, and he would help the Broncos out so much. He's a safety. That's his primary position, but honestly, you could play him anywhere in the secondary. You could play him in the slot if you want him to. I feel like that could fill a need for the Broncos after K'Wan Williams leaves. I would assume at the end of this season if we don't re-sign him. But he can play in the dime package. He can play in the nickel package. If you want to run an all DB package, you can play him at sub linebacker if you need him to. He can play both free and strong safety. He's going to help in the run support, going to help in the passing game. He's my favorite prospect, but there's no way he falls to us. Safeties, linebackers, and running backs, to me, those are the 3 positions that, even if it's a really good prospect, they drop lower or they drop further down the draft. But I just think Brian Branch is too talented of a football player. If he drops into the second round, I expect him to go early day 2. I don't expect him to fall to the Broncos, but if he did, I would be pounding the table. Go get Brian Branch. But again, he won't be there most likely. As for probably won't be there, I'm going with John Michael-Schmitz, center out of Minnesota. Schmitz is by far and away the best center in this class and would instantly help the Broncos. You guys have known I've been mocking the Broncos centers a lot. Aldo Segan, Oluwatimi, Luke Weipler. Schmitz is by far the best center, and even if he doesn't start this season, he could definitely compete for a starting job with Lloyd Cushenberry. But even if he doesn't start this season, he'll start gelling with the offensive line, so you don't have to worry about that next season. You don't have to worry about drafting a center next season or going out into free agency next season, because you have your center of the future already on the roster, whether he starts this season or not. But as in my most recent mock draft, you guys saw that I put him in the first round. So I don't think he falls to us. I definitely think he probably falls maybe to day 2 if he doesn't go to the Giants in the first round. Maybe he slips to us, but I doubt he will be there. Benjamin Albright said if Schmitz is there, then the Broncos will select him according to him. I know a lot of people don't like Benjamin Albright, but, I respect him. It's hard. He puts out a lot of stuff, and, it's a prediction at the end of the day. He doesn't know for certain, and a lot of people are mad about that for some reason. So, yeah, I don't know. But Schmitz, I think, would be a fantastic pick if he's there at 67. He's the best center in this draft by far and away. Could be there. I'm going with Trenton Simpson, linebacker out of Clemson. To me, Trenton Simpson is still the best linebacker in this class. I know he's fallen for a lot of people, but to me, he's still the best linebacker in this class. And I thought there's no way the Broncos can get him, now that we don't have a first-round pick. But, a lot of mock draft YouTubers who I respect have Trenton Simpson dropping into the 3rd round and having the Broncos selecting him, which I agree with, the Broncos selecting him. But even if they didn't select him, still him falling into the 3rd round to the Broncos pick, this would be a slam dunk pick. It would instantly transform our linebacker room. Josie Jewell, we'll see what happens at the end of the season. It's the last year of his contract on the 2-year deal he signed last offseason. Of course, we signed Alex Singleton to that 3-year deal at the beginning of this offseason. I like Jonas Griffith as a depth and rotational type of linebacker, but in terms of starting, I'm not sure. And then Jonas Griffith, but Justin Strnad, 5th-round pick from 2020. I don't think he's going to have his contract re-signed at the end of this season, so I do think we need to address the linebacker depth. And Trenton Simpson will help you in everything. He'll rush the passer for you. He can drop back into coverage if you need him to. He can defend the run. He can defend the pass. He can do it all. So Trenton Simpson, he is a all-around linebacker and someone who the Broncos should be ecstatic if he falls there. Again, it's a 50-50 shot, in my opinion, that he falls to the Broncos at 67 and 68. Will be there is going to be Garrett Williams. Garrett Williams, to me, is a top corner in this draft, and the main reason he fell is due to his injury. I believe it was an ACL injury. So, yeah, I think that Garrett Williams, if a team is fine with the medical, if they cleared him with the medical, then I think he'll go earlier. In the draft, he could, but I most likely think that he will be there just due to the fact of the injury and maybe the uncertainty. And if he is, I think the Broncos should absolutely take advantage of him falling and drafting him at pick 67 or 68 if they stick put and they don't trade down, because Garrett Williams is a very talented corner, just needs to heal from that injury. And the Broncos were kind of thin at the cornerback position. Of course, we got Pat Surtain, Damari Mathis, K'Wan Williams, Isang Bassi, but we cut Ronald Darby. He's no longer on the team. So, I think we're kind of thin at the cornerback position. I wouldn't be shocked if the Broncos drafted 2 corners in this draft, maybe draft a corner and pick up an undrafted free agent one. We, of course, have Jaquan McMillan, who is an undrafted free agent from last year, who I think could be interesting and would be a very solid pickup for the Broncos. But Garrett Williams, I believe, will be there at pick 68. Maybe he won't, because it's the NFL draft. Things crazy can happen, but I think he will be there at pick 67 and 68. And who is the most likely pick who I think the Broncos will select? Well, if you guys have been watching the videos up until now, you should know that it's going to be Luke Weipler. I do think Weipler will be the pick. I think the Broncos do want to address the center position. I think Schmitz will be gone. Weipler is the second best center available in this class, in my opinion. So I do think that Weipler will be the pick for the Broncos. Competing with Lloyd Cushenberry for the starting job, even if he doesn't get it, he's already gelling with the other offensive linemen. and building that chemistry. And then that way, if the Broncos don't pick up Lloyd Cushenberry's contract, Weipler is plugged in to that center position, and you don't have to worry about signing a free agent or drafting someone next year, and specifically drafting someone for next year. And you can just draft the best player available next year, and you have your line figured out, because you already got your tackles and McGlinchey and Bowles, already got your guards and Miners and Powers. Now you just need to find your center, and I think Weipler will most likely be the pick for the Broncos. Now, before we get out of here, I'm just really quickly going to go over all the players that the Broncos have met with in the pre-draft era. So we're going to go over all the players that the Broncos met with at the Combine, that they brought into the facility, that they met with over Zoom, or that they met with at their pro days. Starting off with Adetomiwa Adebawore, edge out of Northwestern. Alex Austin, cornerback out of Oregon State. Andrew Farmer, edge out of Lane College. Art Green, cornerback out of Houston. I think Art Green is someone who the Broncos could pick up maybe in the 4th or 5th round as another cornerback option. Antonio Mafi, guard out of UCLA. Brandon Hill, safety out of Pittsburgh. Byron Young, edge out of Tennessee, is a really intriguing option. Someone who I would love if the Broncos picked up and wouldn't be mad at all. Not to be confused, of course, with Byron Young, defensive lineman from Alabama. Then we got Cameron Young, defensive lineman out of Mississippi State. Carter Warren, offensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. Chandler Zavala, guard out of NC State. Chris Rodriguez Jr., running back out of Kentucky. Daniel Barker, tight end out of Illinois. DeQuan Jackson, linebacker out of Colorado State. David Durden, wide receiver out of West Florida. DeMarvion Overshown, linebacker out of Texas. And if the Broncos are unable to get Trenton Simpson, DeMarvion Overshown is the linebacker who I want the Broncos to draft. Then we got Iku Leota, edge out of Auburn. Felix Anudike-Uzomah, edge rusher out of Kansas State. Garrett Williams, of course, who we mentioned earlier, cornerback out of Syracuse. Israel Abanikanda, running back out of Pittsburgh. Jack Coletto, the jackhammer package, fullback or linebacker out of Oregon State, plays both of them. Then we got Jake Witt, offensive tackle out of Northern Michigan. Jamie Robinson, safety out of Florida State. Jordan Rhodes, guard out of Arkansas State. Jordan Riley, defensive tackle out of Oregon. Julius Brents, cornerback out of Kansas State. Keaton Mitchell, one of my guys, running back out of East Carolina. Kelee Ringo, cornerback out of Georgia. I have him in the 1st round, but if he somehow falls to the Broncos at pick 67 or 68, I will also be pounding the table for the Broncos to draft him. This cornerback has a lot of speed, a lot of talent as well, playing in the SEC. If he falls to the Broncos, I think we have to scoop him up. Then we got Lou Nichols, running back out of Central Michigan. Luke Musgrave, tight end out of Oregon State. This is a very talented tight end class, so you're going to see a couple tight ends on here. Luke Schoonmaker, tight end out of Michigan. Marte Mapu, edge/safety out of Sacramento State. Miles Brooks, cornerback out of Louisiana Tech. Payne Durham, tight end out of Purdue. Rashee Rice, wide receiver out of SMU. This one is intriguing because they met with Rashee Rice at the Combine and then as a pre-draft visit. So if the Broncos are to go wide receiver, expect it to be Rashee Rice, in my opinion. And then there's Riley Moss, cornerback out of Iowa. Sean Clifford, quarterback out of Penn State. Sean Tucker, running back out of Syracuse. Tank Bigsby, running back out of Auburn. Trey Palmer, wide receiver out of Nebraska. And Ventrell Miller, linebacker out of Florida. Those are all the pre-draft meetings. Thank you so much for tuning into this. Remember, I am streaming tonight, if you're watching this the day that it's released, for the 1st round of the NFL draft. It's going to be the whole 1st round. If you're watching this a day or two later, on Friday, I will also be streaming all of rounds 2 and 3. And on Saturday, I'll be streaming all of rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. So come and join me. Feel free to join. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel down below. The support is greatly appreciated, and I hope to see you very soon. Peace out.